Virus is a 1999 sci-fi horror movie directed by John Bruno. A down-on-their-luck boat crew find a seemingly abandoned ship at sea, but the salvage opportunity of their dreams soon becomes a nightmare when they discover the ship has been taken over by malevolent machines. But before we get into this mechanical madness, I just want to ask that if you end up enjoying this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out. So thanks. Also, there will be full spoilers ahead, but if that doesn't bother you, then grab your pickled gherkin-flavoured popcorn and whip out your favourite prosthetic arm as we dive into Virus. So the movie begins and... hang on. Where's the title card? All I see is a black screen and... we then see a bunch of Russian folk on a ship acting all busy-like. But they should really be taking their time with their work instead of Russian. Anyway, the folk on the ship are talking to their colleagues on a space station, with this one fella saying, "Yes, Control, I am aware that my hat is stupid as fuck. You don't have to mention it every time you call!" Then this lady looks out the window to see what can only be described as a blue energy spaceship heading right towards them. Personally, I think I'd react a bit more surprised than that, and less like I'd just caught my cat using the toilet. Actually, no, that would be a surprise. So the blue lightning spaceship passes through the space station and gives everyone on board a good zap, before the purple lightning shoots down from the station to the ship on the water, causing everyone on board to go, "Oh no, it's all gone to shit! Purple lightning shit!" 7 days later and we're in the South Pacific, where this vessel is struggling to tug a load of cargo through a massive storm. We see the boat driver having a good old swig of wiki, which is exactly what I'd be doing in that situation. His character is called Woods, so I'm going to call him Forrest instead. We also meet Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who I'm going to call Vimto because she's wearing a purple top. And she's all like, "Captain, this storm's given us quite a bit of jip." And the captain, played by the recently deceased Donald Sutherland, R.I.P. you absolute legend, says, "Nah man, we're fine, I've seen rougher waters than this in the bathroom sink, so stop whinging, it's fine." I'm going to call him Captain Oblivious. Then the boat gets hit by a massive wave which gives the hull a reek good dent. The fellas down in the crew quarters are like, "What the hell was that? Oh, the captain hasn't crashed us into a lighthouse again, has he?" So William Baldwin's character, who I'm going to call Bald Willie, goes to tell the captain that if their cargo goes under, then it'll take them down with it. Then a wave knocks loads of the cargo overboard and the captain's like, "No, not me timber! I was going to build a boat with that!" Captain, you already have a boat." "No, I don't." Then the cargo line breaks and everything the captain owns gets sunk to the bottom of the ocean, leaving him thinking, bollocks! Big, wet, salty bollocks. But at least with the cargo gone, they'll be able to make it to calmer waters. Down below, Bald Willie is helping his mate Bubble and Squeak fix the damage caused by the storm. But Squeak goes for a dip and reports that their boat is slowly sinking. Oh, and there's two other crewmates too, who I'm going to call Rich Tea Biscuit and Edge. Because one character is called Richie, and the other one's played by Cliff Curtis. But then Vimto spots something on the radar, which appears to be a ship dead in the water. So they decide to head towards it seeking assistance. Meanwhile, Captain Oblivious isn't taking the loss of his cargo well, so he hits the rum like me first thing in the morning. Then he fancies himself a metallic snack and starts sucking on his gun like a lollipop, when someone knocks on his door to tell him about the ship, and he says, "I'm sucking off me gun, fuck off!" But then they tell him it's dead in the water, which gives him an idea. So they pull up alongside the ship, which is that Russian ship with all them radars and satellite dishes on it. "Oh, I bet to get a proper good signal for satellite telly on that ship. Aye, and I bet to get a good phone signal too, eh?" They try and hail a response from the ship, but no one answers, which is just plain rude if you ask me. Vimto looks up the ship in her big book of ships, and says that it's a proper state-of-the-art ship fitted with all the technological bells and whistles, which gives Captain Oblivious a proper stonk on. So they all climb on board the big mysterious vessel, and I reckon if this film was made nowadays, they'd probably have thought twice before handing a Baldwin a gun. After looking around and not finding anyone on board, they all converge on the bridge, and Rich Tea Biscuit says, "You thinking what I'm thinking?" "Oh yeah, we're gonna blow up this ship!" "No, we can tow it to port and sell it for an absolute fortune in salvage." "Yeah, of course, I mean, that's what I meant, wasn't it?" Yeah. Everyone is fairly chuffed by this proposition, and Captain says, "Yes, I'll be able to afford more timber so I can finally build that boat I've always wanted." Bubble and Squeak and Bald Willie go down to the engine room to fire the bad boy up, but when they do, this rather menacing computer lights up and makes a sound like a very distressed pig. Then out of nowhere, one of the ship's anchors drops right onto Captain Oblivious's boat and almost turns Edge into a Cliff Curtis flavoured pancake. The boat starts sinking quickly, but instead of helping, Forrest says,
"Tell you what, I'm gonna go get some help."
"I can't swim!" "You work on a boat and can't swim? That's like working in a peanut factory and having a nut allergy, or being a prostitute with a phobia of dicks." Bald Willie jumps in to help, and in the process becomes a big wet willy, but thankfully he saves Edge and they get back on the ship as their old boat descends into the depths. Like that frozen lad in Titanic. So they've got no choice than to sail the ship to port now, which I guess they were going to do anyway, so it's all good, isn't it? Meanwhile, Bubble and Squeak see something moving in a vent with cables sticking out of it, and it's this really cute robotic spider which is like, "I've got a red eye, and I'm a facsimile of an arachnid. Follow me!" So he does and crawls into the dark hole, but then some cables grab him and make that pig noise while pulling him in. Oh, Squeak, if you didn't crawl into that dark hole full of cables and robots, you probably would have just died somewhere else instead. Back to the rest of the gang, and they take Edge to the sickbay to sort out his injured leg, with Vimto opening this bottle of medicinal alcohol and giving it a good sniff, thinking, wonder if folk could think I'm mental if I just started chugging this right now. Then all of a sudden, some maniac with a submachine gun pops out from a cupboard and starts shooting up the joint. Bald Willie thinks fast and knocks out the maniac with his gun, but personally I would have just shot the fuck out of him, which is what Captain Oblivious wishes he did too. So they demask the maniac to find it's that Russian lady from the beginning of the movie. But they have no idea who she is because they haven't seen the beginning of the movie because they're in the movie. But we know who it is because we watched the beginning of the movie. Make sense? Good, because we're moving on. Elsewhere, Rich T, Biscuit and Forrest find the armoury, and Rich T makes Forrest his pack mule, or his TM slave if you're a Pokemon fan, by making him carry twice his body weight in weaponry, which will no doubt come in handy later. Then Bald Willie radios Rich T and says that he can't get hold of Bubble and Squeak, so he asks them to check on him, with Forrest thinking, oh great, now I need to lug all this shit to the engine room and back as well. For Christ's sake, man, I'm in my 50s! It's going to give me back pain for the rest of my life! Which, unbeknownst to him, is only about 34 minutes. On their way to the engine room, they pass through a machine shop, and then this thing pops up and says,
Greetings, humans. I am a friendly robotic fly.
You saw it. He had a knife. Back in the medbay, the Russian lasso wakes up and makes a move towards the gun on the table, so Edge grabs it, but it turns out she just wanted the granola bar, with Captain Oblivious thinking, cheeky bitch just stole me bloody granola bar! Throw her overboard!
Captain, please.
Ugh, fine, but if I catch her drinking my rum, she's getting punted the fuck over. So Captain Oblivious asks her where the rest of her crew are, and she says,
Dead.
And he reacts the same way I do whenever I find a deceased wasp on my windowsill.
Dead? Good.
Then the crazy lady, who I'm going to call Messy on account of her messy hair, says they need to turn off the power because it needs power.
What needs power?
A vacuum cleaner, a fridge, PlayStation 5? What's that? A games console that won't exist for another 20 years.
She's a fruitcake.
Oh, and also the electricity-based alien lifeform which has taken over all the machinery on board the ship too. Saying that, I should have probably mentioned that one first, shouldn't I? Can we start again? No! Meanwhile, Rich T and Forrest are still exploring the machine shop when they find some more robotic arachnids, and this one with a nail gun is well annoyed that they shot his mate, the fly one from earlier, so it shoots Forrest in the shoulder! Rich T blasts it, but then some unknown fella opens fire on the two of them, so they leg it. Then they give Bald Willie a call to tell him about their mysterious assailant, and that Forrest's been wounded.
Copy that, how is he? He'll live, Steve, but he ain't in a good mood, man.
That pretty much describes me about 90% of the time, and that's why I drink. So Bald Willie gets to the engine room but finds the door welded shut. Forrest and Rich T soon turn up and tell him that they saw some weird shit in the machine shop, before we get this really unnerving shot of the mysterious figure at the end of the hallway. Then it starts shooting at them, so they take cover before returning fire. And man, this thing looks freaky as hell. I wouldn't want to come across that in a dark alley. Or even anywhere else for that matter. Back to the others, and Messi has changed her tune and is all optimistic now.
You're all going to die.
Thanks for that. Now would you kindly shut the fuck up while we decide whether we're going to yeet you into oblivion? Their plans change, however, when Bald Willie and his buddies show up carrying the remains of the gammy robot bastard that attacked them, with Captain Oblivious having the same reaction as when I saw a dragon fruit for the first time.
What the bloody hell is that?
Vimto reckons Messi may have been telling the truth all along, so she says,
Finish your story, Nadia.
Then brush your teeth before bed. You've got school in the morning. So she tells everyone that the alien electricity thing came down from the space station, took over the computer systems and started making its own messed up robots to kill folk, using human body parts in the process.
Rubbish. You're listening to a pile of Russian rubbish.
Will someone please help Captain Oblivious find his glasses? But there's no time for that, as Vimto notices there's a rather big wave heading their way. Then this toy ship in a bathtub gets a pounding as the waves crash into it. Everyone falls over and the manky robot man falls onto the floor. Then this happens.
That's disgusting.
Rich T shoots it till it's dead. Again. Then says,
I gotta get off this ship.
and everyone's like, nah man, we're all gonna leave, but you've got to stay here and clean up the mess. Sorry mate. So the gang head towards the engine room, but on their way they hear banging from behind a door. Bald Willie has a look through the window and sees the silhouette of Bubble and Squeak. Oh, so maybe the robots didn't get him and turn him all manky. The robots got him and turned him all manky! Then a big nasty looking robot turns up and starts ripping its way through the door. Unlucky for Forrest, Robo-Squeak grabs him and lifts him to an ideal punching height for the big robot, which proceeds to turn his insides into outsides. They shoot at the robots while running away and barricade themselves in the next room. Rich T then comes up with the idea of talking to the machine via a computer, to see if they can actually figure out what it wants. So he asks, "Who are you?" Aware of what? The time? The weather outside? Or perhaps it's aware that your little finger fits perfectly up your nostril. So Rich T asks the machine what it wants, and it starts listing various parts of the human body.
Spare parts. It wants us for spare parts.
Yeah, this thing needs to be destroyed as soon as possible, doesn't it? Everyone agrees that they're going to have to sink the ship to stop this thing getting to land. Then Robo Squeak bursts through the door, and Rich T gives him a lead sandwich with a side order of death. Then he flips out and tells everyone he's going to find his own way off the ship, so he explodes a wall and takes off like a madman. Everyone else gets a move on too, all except Captain Oblivious, who stays behind and has himself a nice shit. Once he's done, he decides to have a good chinwag with the computer, and says that he'll help it get to port, because he wants to be a baddie now. The computer tells him to meet it in its office for a job interview, so he heads down there and asks the machine how he can be of assistance. And the machine says, "I want you to kill your mates, because they're going to sink the ship, which would suck balls. But you're a bit old and crap, so I'm going to have to give you an upgrade." Oh, okay. Will it hurt? No. Oh, sorry, I can't say that without laughing. Yes, of course it's going to hurt. Meanwhile, Rich T is doing his best impression of me trying not to embarrass myself on a date at a restaurant. Back to the others, and they get cornered by the big robot again, but don't worry, Edge whips out his jade clobberer, so I'm sure they'll be fine. Vimto says it'll be about as effective as using motor oil as shampoo, so instead they climb out of an escape hatch onto the deck. Unfortunately for them, it's a wee bit soggy outside, and a big wave washes poor Edge over the edge, which is oddly fitting, really. The others manage to find their way back into the ship, but they're quickly greeted by Captain Oblivious, who's been given the robot treatment.
You don't recognize me.
Oh, they know it's you. They're just repulsed by your ungainly appearance. They try and fight him, but it doesn't go so well. So Messi sticks a thermite grenade in his waist, and Bald Willie pushes him out of the way before he gets blown to bits. Yeah, take that, you robot bastard! Then we see this big ominous silhouette, and oh god, what the hell is this gonna be? Nothing good, I reckon. In fact, I reckon it's gonna be something really, really bad. Like erectile dysfunction. So the gang head down to the ship's lower levels and bump into Rich T, who's gone a bit Rambo at this point. They tell him that they're going to blow up the ship, but he's gone mental, so he just takes off on his own again. The others keep going down into the bowels of the ship and open up the fuel pipes while fashioning a crude bomb out of some thermite grenades and a timer. They set the timer for 15 minutes, then plan to head back and tell Rich T. But then an absolutely mahoosive robot breaks through the door and is all like, "Hello, hello, hello, what's going on here then?" And they're all like, "Oh bugger, you caught us. We were planting a bomb to blow up the ship and..." Hang on a second. You're not a police officer! Oh, I shouldn't have told you our plan! So the big robot, who I'm going to call Smashy Ben, starts wrecking the joint and Vimto falls into the fuel below. She screams as she realises that the fuel is also full of dead bodies. Oily dead bodies! Then Smashy Ben finds his way down to her, and we fade to black as he drags her away. She awakes some time later with Smashy Ben saying, "Won't be a minute, I'm just checking me emails." Oh, there we go. Then it says,
English. Do you speak English?
"No, I do not speak English."
English.
Shit! Then shortly after it starts torturing her, her buddies turn up to save her, including Rich T! Yay! He fires an RPG at the big bad robot, which somehow doesn't damage Vimto despite her being only 3 foot away from the explosion. The metallic bastard doesn't stay down for long though, and it pulls the ceiling down on top of Bald Willie and Rich T. Then it turns its attention to the ladies and chases them. Unfortunately, Rich T has come down with a nasty case of impalement. But before he dies, he tells Bald Willie that there's a way off the ship in the missile room. So once he finds the ladies, that's where he's going to have to head. Oh, and one more thing. The most important thing, really. Whatever you do, don't... Don't what? Rich T! Don't what? Oh, bugger. And the ladies are thinking the same thing as Smashy Ben finds them and says, "Your bomb moves to my hand."
Checkmate.
Then Messi makes the heroic sacrifice and lets Smashy Ben grab her before pulling out a flare gun and shooting the gas tanks next to them, sending both her and the robot up in a big ball of flames. Vimto runs off, but unlucky for her, Smashy Ben still ain't dead, and he's really pissed off now because he starts making the pig noise. She manages to get away though and bumps into Bald Willie, so the two of them head for the missile room. When they get there, they find a makeshift ejaculation seat. Oh, hang on a minute, no, that's not right. The ejector seat is also attached to a stockpile of explosives too, but unfortunately there's only one seat, so Bald Willie insists that Vimto uses it. But when Smashy Ben turns up, Vimto pulls Bald Willie on top of her, presses the button and they both escape like woo! Then the cable attached to the explosives pulls the pin and Smashy Ben makes a sad little robot noise, which roughly translates to
Shit.
And boom! The ship goes kablamo! Then we see a different nearby ship and the captain says,
That's one hell of a flare.
"That isn't a flare, it's an explosion! Honestly, you really are a dumbass if you can't tell the difference, Captain. In fact, you know what? Mutiny!" A short time later and we see a rescue helicopter coming to save Vimto and Bald Willie. But not before we get a fake-out daydream scare like at the end of Event Horizon, which is also a dead good 90s sci-fi horror movie. And also, it's clearly not even Cliff Curtis who attacks her. But, oh well, sod it. Then they get saved and all is well, yada yada yada, end of movie. Well, I'll be honest, I absolutely love Virus. It's one of my favourite 90s movies. It's just got the perfect blend of sci-fi action and gruesome horror that I love, with a great cast and some incredible visual effects for the time. They don't make them like this anymore, and that's a damn shame. So, Virus, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you loathe it? Let me know in the comments below, and if you could please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, it would make me happy as fuck! But above all else, thanks for watching! Make sense? Good, because we're moving on. Which, unbeknownst to him, is only about 34 minutes. Oh god, I can't do an evil laugh properly anymore.
My lungs is still recovering from COVID. Poor lungs. Oh, poor lungs. Punch them lungs. Get 'em, punch. Them lungs is a fucker. Get them lungs. Punch them lungs, make 'em better. Don't know how, but it will.